Hey gang, so having trouble with my camera and downloading videos from the camera to my laptop for some strange reason. So I've done a bunch. Only half of them haven't made it to the laptop to develop a flippin' video. So I've got to do a little bit of intermittent talking here just so these videos actually make a little bit of sense. I know that it sometimes doesn't matter as long as there's some decent content there. But anyways, so we moved the shop. So basically, I moved the bandsaw. My main bandsaw is now in the shop, which is where I've wanted to be for a while. And we've got the dust collector. Anyways, I'll go over that and let you know what's going on from here. Hey gang, Rod at East Coast Lumberjack, and just when you think you're back, I'm going to get right at it. I gotta let people know what's going on because, man, had a string of bad luck. So the bandsaw is here ready to go, but the dust collector is in trouble. As you can see, the electric motor's off it. I don't know what happened there, blew something, I don't know. Electric motor's off of this, the walker turner. So all the bolts are laying there. I got messes here everywhere. So anyways, I'm going to take the my two electric motors to town right now to electric motor service and see if I can't somehow get them running. So one's a pretty rugged engine. I don't know what went sideways with it, but it's not running well. So this old baby here is quite a nice one. It's half horse. It's off the walker turner, but this big one here, it's an induction motor, and that's one that's off the. That one's off the dust collector that I need in order to run my bandsaw out there in the new shop. So lots of issues this week. Again, I just got home last night from moose hunting, and of course I've got these problems today. So lots of things on the go. I'm headed to town. I got to get up and running again, and of course we didn't get a vacation this summer, so we're trying to get away for a week holiday. And I know I've got all these orders that I've yet to get out of the shop. So guys, I appreciate your patience because it's just one of those months where nothing's going right. So anyways, hopefully I can get some good news on these motors here today. I'll let you know. So the other segment I'm missing, of course, it's the segment that talks about getting all my engine motors fixed. So I did get my motors back for $300 some from electric motor service, and now the walker turner's hooked up again and running nice. And it took me a little while to figure out what was going sideways with the dust collector, but it's finally going and working. So we're back up and running. So my first order was one to Ontario, and it had a lot of different handles in it. So I'm gonna show you that just quickly. And we'll finish up this week's segment, the meat of this week's segment. Now that we realize what's happened and where I've been, we're going to look at a different project. So something that a lot of guys may be interested in, and it's hanging a hammer handle. And it's not just any hammer handle. They're high-end 16-ounce with really nice large hickory handle in them. So it's a project that you may want to look at and watch. As I do the hanging that little head. Yeah, a bit of a hodgepodge this week. What I want want to show you the other order, the urgent order that's got to go out. This is a guy that runs a carpentry business, and he likes these bent backwards handles. They kind of, they don't have a big flare, but they do come out a bit gradually. They really like them. And he's got 4 16-ounce heads, so I've had to make replacement handles, pretty much the very same thing. And then of course we're mounting them. We're putting them on the handles, so or on the heads. The heads are going on the handles. So this is another brush project that we're trying to get done and out. Before we have to head to the island of Grand Manan. So again, it's a pretty small little eye, of course, a hammer eye, and this is square. So I should show you. Last time we chatted, of course, everything was flying apart. Well, we've got the fixed motor back on the Walker Turner. I just got to fix the on-off switch, mount that up somewheres. And this is the motor on the dust collector. So it's running good, hooked up to the bandsaw. So it's keeping things pretty clean there. So we're slowly getting back in business. The other thing I need to fix is my shoulders. I don't know why I did my shoulders, but man alive, am I in pain. And it's worse when I wake up in the mornings. You know, it's these little movements. I can still lift 200 pounds, but I can't lift about 5 pounds out this way. So we've got to spoke shave off where we're putting our handles, and again you gotta try to do this so that you're taking the same amount off every side, okay? Because the hammer handle has to sit in the middle of the handle, the hammer head. So you kind of got to take a little bit off of one side, a little bit off the other. Keep working back and forth, switching it around all the time, back and forth in the vise. So you don't wind up taking too much off of one side. So that's the end of it there. And you can see we flattened out here. Now we got to do the top part to make sure that hammerhead sits right in the middle of the handle. So let's go right that widthwise. No, a little bit more still. They're pretty small. They're a pretty small eye, and you can fill them. Your wedge will pick up a lot of the slack if you get them just a whisker small. So that's weird. It's the grain's going one way in one direction and one way in the other. So we're getting closer all the time. I'm gonna go the other way though. This way now, just to make sure we don't. So I'm a new grandfather again. Winifred Leanne, Cumberland. Welcome to the world, Winifred. I'm sure we're going to call you Winnie. So happily and healthily arrived last night, 7 pounds, almost 8 pounds. So Grampy and Grammy are pretty tickled. Another grandchild to play with. just got back from Muscatauba, the last lumberjack show of the year. And it went reasonably well for us, Cumberlands. There we go. So it's almost the same thing. So you want the head on. So we're just on there right now, and I can tell from pushing it on. So I pushed it on. You can see it's dragging here. It's dragging on all four sides, dragging here again. So we're getting close, but we still need to take a whisker more off. And I like my hammer handles nice and tight all through the eye, so I don't want to take a lot off and then have some slack in there and then try to take it up with a wedge. I want it nice and tight. So why? I just do. I think that's the best way to hang one. There's nothing that says you can't have a little bit of slack, but I just like it nice and tight. And I don't have to wedge quite so much. And I find if it's really tight when you first put it on and wedge it, so you can barely get a wedge in there, a lot less chance of it coming loose because the wood is really tight right in the handle, right from the get-go. So that's the goal. Yeah, let's try that. Still a whisker snug. Try that. That is better. Okay. So we're on. We want to make sure, same as the hammer, we want to make sure it's nice and straight. And then we're going to bring it on with the So we're almost there. Now, so I'm gonna put a cross wedge in this, because if you look, we've got a little bit of wiggle room on the top and the bottom, but we've also got a little wiggle room here at the front. So I made, for this eye, I just went out, I took something off the wood splitter and I cut off this piece of steel for a drift, because it fits right in there, nice. Okay, because you got to drift this handle back and in and out, of course. A couple of pokes and it's out, so we'll take another look. And we can see here where it's dragging again, so it's dragging here. Nothing there, good. Dragging here a little bit. So, we want to take those drag marks out. We're almost there, so it's, so the other thing you want to check as well with a hammer, because this hammer is going to be seated the same height as this one. So if I seat that down at that height, same as this other hammer. Okay, so my wedge groove is about halfway down the eye, so I want it just a whisker deeper. Just a whisker. And I wanted a whisker deeper because I've cut some custom wedges out of hickory, and they're really thin, so they're gonna come down in my slot a little bit farther. So I don't want them fetching up on the bottom Okay, coming down to the bottom and starting to curl, because that puts pressure in there, puts pressure in the bottom of your groove. It will actually encourage your handle to split more, or split, not more, but split, period. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up. I've thinned it out there, but I haven't yet smoothed it into the handle. So that's what we're going to do now. Because you saw how close it was to going on last time. I'm going to finish that off so it's nice and smooth the whole way around. So if it goes on the whole way this time, you can stay there and I don't want to have to fix it again. So this one here is going to come a little more. And then we'll round this out. So this is a rush order. And with Canada Post on strike, man, talk about taking a kicking lately. The tariffs in the States have pretty much dried up the American handle business, and now I've got no flipping postal service in Canada. What do they say? When it rains, it pours. So I've got to find a workaround for that. Because I've got a bunch of handles, and I'll try UPS and a few other things and see whether they're a little bit more reasonable. Oh, and the other thing, because we have to cross wedge, remember? So remember, it was a little narrow this way, so I'm going to split down this way as well, and we'll cross wedge this hammer handle. Now I know it's tight in the middle, so I'm only coming down that far this way because I know it's tight here. So I'm only coming that far because it's going to be tight right here. I brought it down more this way. So, and then the hammer is swung this way. Okay, so that the slope is out here. So let's try this one. So we're getting quite close. This is the last one I hung. These are almost identical now. So we'll take and clean up. There's just a little bit of curl, a little whisker bit of curl there at the bottom. So I'm just going to cut that off with the X-Acto knife. Make it nice and clean. So there's no curled edges. There, a little bit at the back, a little whisker there. There. Now, how deep? I don't know whether that's deep enough or not, actually. Let's just take another look. Something tells me it's not deep enough. It's going to go halfway down the head. It's going to go halfway down the head, and we can see from right here. Okay, it's only going to be, well, it's almost half, but not quite. But we got to go a little deeper. A little bit deeper in the well, boys. And the other thing I can do now that that's out is right where it's fetched up down here. I can smooth that. I can smooth that out right there. So all four of those, works a little bit. And now that'll just make me feel a whole lot better. So it's a balmy October the 6th, and not to encourage the climate alarmists at all, but she's a balmy 31 degrees in New Brunswick today. So pretty sweet. Actually, pretty hot. There. Okay. Now I have a little piece of sandpaper here, but I can see it's gone, and I know where it went. It went to a lumberjack show. That's the last piece of this stuff, so I'm going to have to buy some more sandpaper. And I'm just going to sand the upper part of it here, where it goes into the head. Because it's hard to sand once it's on there. Okay, and now we'll seat it. Okay, there it is, all seated. Okay, so now we're going to do one wedge and a cross wedge. So let's do, let's see, got a couple wedges here. Carrots are ripening in the garden. Nothing like a fresh carrot in the fall of the year. So, when I've hammered it out, it's closed up that gap. So just take your straight screwdriver and widen that again, like that. Once you widen it out, there, now your wedge will go in. The other thing too, this wedge broke. See that? Broke, it's so thin out there. Just take that thin little piece off. Okay, break it off. Use a X-Acto knife, take it off. There we go. I'm going to wedge this way. That's about as far as we'll go there. And then what we're going to do, we're going to take our bandsaw and saw down in here. Okay, so that we can put our cross wedge, and we'll measure that, see how much we need. So we only need that much. So I'll go a whisker wider and start that down with my X-Acto knife and just tap it along with a hammer like this, and it'll split that right down. Never watched much baseball, but I'm watching it lately. My hunting buddies have got me into watching baseball. And of course, Blue Jays doing all right. Sorry, my Yankee and Boston fan friends. But there's got to be a winner and there's got to be a loser. And of course, it ain't over yet. Okay, so she's pretty snug all the way around. So now we're just going to clean that off with a bandsaw. Okay, so now that cross wedge didn't fill the front of that, so I'm going to fill it myself with the leftover pieces of these two little wedges. I'm just going to take the end piece off like that on both of them. This one here is bent a little bit, so take that off, make it a little bit narrower. And I'm going to put both of them in the front like this, because we need a little bit more slack taken up in the front of this. So this side here is a little wide for that gap. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit more off of this one. I'll take it off the wide side. About a 1/16 of an inch. Like that. So I just took a 1/16 of it off. So it'll fit in that gap right there. Still going to be a little there. Okay, so they're both started in there. So I'm just pounding them along to take up that gap in front. And that's as far as they'll go. So I'll clean that up again with a bandsaw. Now most times on a hammer handle, you'll see that they put a metal wedge in the top of that, and I think that's not a bad idea. So I'm filling this as much as I can full of wood, but I'll tell him to then put some metal wedges in. And that'll just spread that out a little bit more and hold it really well. And they won't be big. They don't need to be. Okay, so that's about as tight as we can get it. And that's number 2 done. We're going for 4. So that'll wrap up this week's video. I know I've done some other stuff, told you about what we're doing here in the shop. I'm not sure what I'm doing next, but I know I got a ton of projects. I got that blue crate there is filled with axes, splitting molds and stuff from a couple of the youth camps in the province. I've got the axes from Maine I've been talking about for weeks, still haven't got at. But again, it was the last little bit of beautiful weather, so we did a little bit of camping, finished up the last Lumberjack show, and now, of course, it's bow season. So, but my days will be spent in the shop here, so there should be a lot of videos coming in the next little bit, covering all the stuff we're on. So anyways, till next time, East Coast Lumberjack signing off.